In this episode of Retiring Today, we're talking about the importance of a succession plan.
And conversations to consider having right now with your spouse and kids.
Plus, how having a plan can help ease the burden and transfer wealth efficiently to your loved ones.
Join us for Retiring Today. Welcome to Retiring Today. I'm here with Lauren Merkle. He's a certified financial planner, and Abby Hunt-Rod's our retirement income certified professional. And today's subject of today's show is succession planning. In the first part, we're going to talk about your spouse in succession planning. The second part, your kids in succession planning. So Lauren, when you sit down with people, pre-retirees and retirees, this is a really important part of their goals.
It's at the top of their mind as well. Ironically, when people come to talk to us, the top two topics on their mind is not investments. It's tax planning and then succession planning. How are they going to transition their assets, the assets that they've worked 30 to 40 years to accumulate and depend upon, not only pre-retirement and during retirement, how are they going to transition it to their loved ones and charities after they're gone? And one of the top concerns of most married couples is how do they make sure that their surviving spouse is taken care of for the rest of their life?
And Abby, it's not necessarily a fun conversation to have. None of us like thinking about, our last day and what happens to us when we're gone, but it's a really important conversation.
It is crucial. I went back to visit my grandma back home a couple weeks ago, and she has been a widow for 15 years. So we were talking about some of her legacy goals because she's almost 90 now, and the conversation kind of turned to what her experience was when she became a recent widow. And 15 years later, she got teary-eyed because she felt like it was such a blessing that my grandpa had done some of the advanced planning that he did, because his primary objective when they first got married was to make sure that she was taken care of. So the fact that he had the foresight and took, the intentional steps to develop that succession plan over 40 years ago when they first got married is still one of the biggest blessings in her life. So no, it's not fun to think about your loved ones passing away, but having a plan in place is crucial to make sure that transition is as easy on them as it can be.
Did you find that within their relationship that your grandpa took the lead on the financial aspect of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and typically that's what we see as we meet with people, is that one of the two generally takes the lead on the financial matters. And so in this circumstance, your grandpa passed first. Mm-hmm. He took the lead, but because he did such a good job of putting things in place, now your grandma could focus on all the things that you focus on when your best friend, your loved one for 40 years plus has passed away, and knowing that the financials are in place. And that's why the succession planning is at the top of the list of what we tackle within the overall retirement method.
And I know I've heard that both of you say, and some of the other members of the team here at Merkle Retirement Planning, sometimes when a spouse passes, you guys are literally one of the second, third, fourth calls they make because the team helps execute some of these financial matters that need to be taken care of. What things does a team do?
There's a lot of things that need to happen once a spouse passes away. First of all, we need to change the beneficiaries, because the beneficiaries designations is where we see a lot of mistakes take place, because if one spouse passes, something crazy happens, the other spouse passes, the beneficiaries weren't changed. Now that could redirect where the assets really should go. So at the top of the list, we need to change the beneficiaries on all of the different accounts to make sure that the surviving spouse's wishes are taken care of if something would happen to that surviving spouse.
And beneficiaries and succession planning, there's an element to that in each one of the tiers of the Merkle Retirement Method that you use with families every day to help them reach their retirement goals.
Yeah, there's 5 different tiers to the Merkle Retirement Method. The first one would be the tax piece. We need to have some kind of tax planning to make sure that we can increase your spendable income as much as we possibly can, decrease what you send to Uncle Sam. We have the health care, long-term care component of the plan, the legacy planning, and even though the legacy planning is usually number 4 on the list, it is one of the first things that we cover because it is so important. It's not all that difficult to get it right. You just have to make sure you get it right and get it right while you're alive. Then we have the investment piece, and then we have the income piece of the plan. When it comes to retiring, one of the top concerns for most pre-retirees is how are they going to get their income when the W-2 wages go away. So you tell your boss Monday morning you're not coming back into work, Your boss is not going to pay you anymore, but you still need to maintain your lifestyle. So where is that income going to come from? From Social Security, from the investable resources that you have, maybe you have a pension. It all needs to work together to make sure you maximize a lifetime of savings to deliver you a retirement full of joy.
So Abby's moved over to the board now to show us what a succession plan can look like. We've got our couple, Tom and Terry.
Yes, and first we just want to start talking about Tom and Terry's income sources and what they need for income each month. So between the two of them, they have monthly expenses of $3,500 a month. But with all the income sources added up, they're bringing in just a little bit over that at $3,800 a month. So now, just to talk through the different sources while they're both alive, they both are receiving Social Security. So Tom's Social Security benefit is $1,000 a month, and Terry's is $800 a month. In addition to that, Tom has a pension at $1,000 a month. Now, what survivorship option he chose will impact the income that Terry is eligible for when he passes. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. And then the final source of income is Terry's $1,000 a month that she's getting from her IRA. So let's talk through, Tom passes away earlier than anticipated. How does that then impact Terry's income sources? The way that Social Security works with survivorship options is the surviving spouse gets to switch to the higher of the two benefits. So in that situation, Terry's $800 a month goes away, and she switches over to Tom's $1,000 a month. Now with Tom's pension, if he took the straight life option, so it only pays out over his life expectancy, then that full $1,000 goes away, which would leave Terry then with just her $1,000 a month and just Tom's $1,000 a month of Social Security income. So her income is going from $3,800 a month down to $2,000 a month. Now, if Tom took a different survivorship option on his pension, then that's going to impact Terry's situation. So let's say he took a 50% survivorship option. Then instead of the $1,000 a month, Terry's going to get $500 a month. So now her $2,000 a month that we talked about in the last scenario would be $2,500. Expenses are probably going to be a little bit less with only one person, but that just gives you an idea of how these survivorship options really make a big impact on how that income looks for the surviving spouse. And then to flip this situation, let's say that Terry passes away before Tom. How does that change Tom's income? Well, in that situation, he's obviously still going to get his pension. And then Terry's $800 a month from Social Security will still go away because that's the lesser of the two benefits. But Tom will inherit her IRA, so he could continue to take that $1,000 a month if he needed to, if he wanted to. So in a survivorship situation for Tom, his income is $3,000 a month. So a lot of times, depending on who has what benefits, one spouse passing has a bigger impact on the surviving spouse's income sources than the other spouse does.
So that's a lot of numbers, and if you didn't catch all those different numbers at home, essentially what we're trying to get at is run these different scenarios. Run the if-thens. What happens if Tom passes away first? How much income does Terry have left? Not only when Tom passes, but how does that translate to income 5 and 10 years down the road for Terry to make sure that she still has the income that she needs to have over the course of her retirement, and vice versa. If Terry passes away first, where's Tom's income going to come from, and is it adequate to deliver the lifestyle that Tom needs? Because one of the top concerns is making sure that the surviving spouse is taken care of.
And in a scenario like this one, Abby, what do you find sometimes is the biggest surprise for people? What did they not know about what you just explained?
I would say the survivorship options on pensions are sometimes the biggest question mark for a lot of spouses. So when a spouse is making that decision, when Tom is making his pension decision, in theory, Terry should know what survivorship option he chooses, and so she should know what the implications are down the road. But a lot of times we find that that's not necessarily the case. whether they made those decisions kind of in a hurry or you're signing a bunch of paperwork and you don't really know, what it is exactly that you're signing. So we don't want those question marks to be there in a survivorship situation. We want to know what we're getting into.
And that's why it's so important to have the plan in a written format to really keep track of, here's the income that you're going to have now, here's the income that you're going to have later. How many times, Abby, do we meet somebody a couple years after they've taken their pension and we ask them, what's the survivorship option on the pension?
And they don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Right. That's going to be such a pivotal point if that person passes away for the surviving spouse. With Social Security, in married situations, there is a survivorship benefit. What is the survivorship benefit? If you're sitting home and you haven't elected Social Security, that should be a part of your consideration in the election process of what benefits you choose from Social Security. All of this needs to be played out, the what ifs, the if thens. One thing that nobody has is a crystal ball. So nobody knows what's going to happen 10 years from now, but based on all the information that you have, you need to make the best decisions with all the options available to you at point of decision time.
We'll continue talking about a succession plan and your spouse, the things you can be talking about now, and then we'll move on to your kids, how you can talk to your kids as you move to and through retirement when Retiring Today continues.
Are you overwhelmed by planning for retirement? Are you currently retired and looking to maximize your retirement savings? Not sure where to begin? Join us for our complimentary Passport to Retirement class. You'll learn how to maximize your Social Security benefits, save money on taxes, and leave a legacy that lasts for generations. Spots are limited and classes fill quickly. Call us today at Merkle Retirement Planning.
You made it. Years of hard work, investing, planning, and now you're here. The long-awaited reward you spent a lifetime looking forward to. But what now? That's where we come in. We are Merkle Retirement Planning, your personal retirement planners. From investments to tax reduction strategies, with our Merkle Retirement Method, we can help you reach your retirement goals. You worked a lifetime to get here. Let us help you enjoy it to the fullest. For a complimentary visit, simply contact us today. Merkle Retirement Planning.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm here with Lauren Merkle, Certified Financial Planner, and Abby Hunt-Rodz, Retirement Income Certified Professional. And we're talking about a succession plan, still covering a little bit about your spouse and some of the conversations you can be having right now to get ready for that succession plan. So Lauren, taxes should be part of the conversation.
Taxes are a big part of the succession plan conversation. I'll just give you a quick example, and I think you'll understand completely why it's so important. Let's say as a married couple, you make $70,000 a year as taxable income. Your top tax bracket is 12%. Now, one spouse passes away, when you're filing single, now you're in the 22% tax bracket. There is a big difference between 12 and 22, and what that does is it has an immediate impact on your spendable income. So that's something that should be planned for as a part of your overall retirement plan, because it will have a big impact on your succession plan.
So Abby, the estate, so for some people that's the home, some people own land, other assets like that, that's a conversation you've got to have.
Yes, it is. So any of those joint owned assets, you need to make sure that you're retitling into just your name. But another big factor for a lot of women, especially, I guess, is, who do you call in the case of needing a plumber or an electrician? Some of those contacts that maybe your late husband had maintained, now having some sort of guide, some sort of go-to document where the attorney's information is and the financial advisor's information is, but also all those maintenance contacts. That's an important resource for the surviving spouse to have, just to make sure that, when those things come up, you're not kind of scrambling and trying to figure out who to call.
Health care and long-term care, how does that fit into a succession plan?
On average, women are anticipated to outlive their income by 11 years, men by 7 years. And a lot of that has to do with the last 4 to 5 years of their life, because that's when the health care and the long-term care expenses are at an absolute peak. It's said that ages 65 plus will spend about $280,000 over the course of their retirement just on health care and long-term care. So it has to be a part of that plan to make sure that the surviving spouse is taken care of and that a health care or long-term care event does not disrupt the rest of the surviving spouse's retirement.
And as we transition into the succession plan and your kids, I think for both the kids and the spouse, it boils down to communication. Not fun conversations to have, but they can really ease the burden for the spouse that's left behind, or for the kids when you both pass.
They're really important conversations, and that's why these are some of the first conversations that we have. As we approach the 5 tiers of that Merkle retirement method, we're talking about legacy planning as one of the first points, because here's what happens. We put the legacy plan in place, the succession plan in place, and now all of a sudden you feel a lot better about what's going to happen. And it doesn't, once you have it in place, it's well thought out, it's documented in writing so everybody knows what it is. Now you feel a lot better about it, and it does not have to change all that much throughout the course of the retirement. The hardest part is just getting it in place at first and then making sure that it changes as your life changes.
Okay, so we're talking about getting the kids involved, and for some people, that's what they want to do. For other people, that's not part of their legacy plan, and maybe that's not something they're as interested in. But if your kids are part of your succession plan, there's some steps you can take right now to help make that succession plan go more smoothly. And one of those things is titling accounts and knowing the difference between per stirpes and per capita.
It's important to understand once the surviving spouse passes, or once you're both gone, where is the money going to go and how is it going to transition to the next generation? And this is why we talk about that multi-generational IRA all the time, and we clarify what does per stirpes mean, what does per capita mean, and what does it really mean for your assets as it transitions based on how you title your accounts. And this goes back to, Abby, what you were talking about as far as communication. This is where communication is absolutely pivotal, not only with your spouse, but also with your kids or your beneficiaries, to make sure that they understand here's what your wishes are. And you don't have to talk about dollar amounts, right? We're not getting into dollar amounts necessarily. You certainly can if you want to, but we're really talking about strategy and your wishes on what you want to have happen to whatever's left over when you're gone. And also that's why it's nice to have this in writing. So maybe you don't want to have the verbal communication with your kids. A lot of people like that. That's okay. I mean, I think that's important too. This is your money. Whatever you want to do with it, it's okay. It's your money. But if you have it in writing, even if you haven't had the chance to have the verbal communication, once you pass, now the kids see it, the beneficiaries see exactly what your wishes are and who to contact to help them take control over whatever it is that you have left.
And a lot of the families that we work with actually want to get the kids involved now because they want us to have a relationship with their children prior to them getting to the point where they need long-term care, and maybe the kids need some guidance in helping with those decisions, or once they both pass, now we have an established relationship with those heirs, and we can help walk them through that process because we see a lot of mistakes on it. And if you mess up in that transition, then that's where some of those stretch provisions blow up. And so having the guidance is very, very important for the kids, the beneficiaries.
And that's why as a firm, we typically only work with those in the pre-retiree to retirement phase because that's what we specialize in. But we will work with our family's kids because having that relationship is important. When you would pass away, your kids already have the relationship with us. That transition is much easier. So even if we don't end up working with your kids once you're gone, that's okay. There's that established relationship, and now it makes that transition from the time that you pass to when they take over the money much easier and much less likely than to have big mistakes, especially when it comes to taxes on your retirement accounts.
And whether it's your children that you're leaving some of your assets to, or a charity, or a friend or another loved one, getting the accounts titled correctly can really save you some time in court and really can get things to those people efficiently. What does that conversation look like?
Many times we have conversations with people that we have met and their parents had recently passed, and they're telling us about the experience they had trying to settle their parents' estate and the messes that they had to try to clean up. I mean, sometimes they're 18 months into this process and they still have not settled that estate. And so what do they tell us?
They don't want their kids to have to deal with what they're dealing with.
It
comes up every week.
Yeah, almost every single week they say, what I'm going through right now trying to settle my parents' estate, I don't want to put my kids through that. And that's the importance of putting that succession plan in place and having these types of conversations and this type of dialogue prior to the big event taking place.
Okay, what about their investments? So they look at some of the, investments that they have, they want to pass those along. What should they be talking about right now with their spouse or themselves or the financial advisor?
Well, one of the things with how we decide which investments, which types of investments get passed on to where, is to look at what makes the most sense from a tax standpoint. So sometimes we meet families who have this sum of money over here that they want to give to their kids, but they also have, say, charitable aspirations, and they want to give, this piece over here to their church. Well, in that situation, there are more strategic ways to set that up so that the taxable money, the pre-tax money, goes in the most efficient way possible, because if we send the pre-tax money just to the charitable organizations, now all of that money benefits the charity because they don't have to pay tax on it. Meanwhile, say this bucket over here is a non-qualified bucket or a Roth bucket, and that's what you want to give to your kids, because now there's tax advantages to your kids inheriting those types of accounts versus the pre-tax accounts. So there's a number of different elements that we look at on that piece of it.
Okay, so that's great information. We talk about all of this information in the classes, the retirement classes that Merkle Retirement Planning holds. We'll give you some insight into those classes and tell you how to sign up when Retiring Today continues.
Are you overwhelmed by planning for retirement? Are you currently retired and looking to maximize your retirement savings? Not sure where to begin? Join us for our complimentary Passport to Retirement class. You'll learn how to maximize your Social Security benefits, save money on taxes, and leave a legacy that lasts for generations. Spots are limited and classes fill quickly. Call us today at Merkle Retirement Planning.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation? Will you be there for my ball games? Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me? Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. We've been talking about the importance of a succession plan. I'm here with Lauren Merkle and Abby Hunt-Rods. And as we talk about the takeaways today, Abby, number one is to start having the conversation now. Why is it important?
It's important to know what it is that you and your spouse want to have happen. We're all going to have a last day, and we don't know when that is. So when that happens, how do you feel about your kids inheriting whatever amount of money it is that you have to pass on? Placing the right control mechanisms in force, if that's important to you, to control how that transfer happens, that's one thing to discuss. It's not fun to talk about our loved ones passing away, but life does not last forever. Love might, they say that love lasts forever, but life doesn't. So just talking about the what ifs, planning for the if thens, it all starts with just the conversations.
And on average, women are anticipated to outlive men by 4 full years, which means a large majority of the time, women are making the final succession plan decisions. And that's why communication while you're both around is so essential, to make sure that whoever is left over, whether it's the man or the woman, understands exactly what the fulfillment wishes are. And that's, again, why it's so important to make sure this information is in writing and everybody agrees to it.
So the first takeaway is communicate with your spouse if you're married, or if you're single, maybe with a financial advisor or a trusted friend or loved one about getting a plan in place. But then, Abby, you have to be ready to adjust. So if you are married and a spouse passes, there are a lot of steps you have to take, and having a team on your side that can help you execute those steps is pretty important.
It is important. A few of the most important things that come to mind when we talk about adjusting a surviving spouse's plan: making sure that all of the accounts are retitled with the appropriate beneficiaries. So whatever those plans that you had discussed with your spouse when they were still alive, now you can execute on those wishes on the different investable assets. But then on top of that, also kind of reevaluating how you're invested, because a lot of times, let's say the woman is the surviving spouse in the situation, maybe her risk tolerance is a little bit different than they were as a married couple. So those are some of the top 2 elements that should be addressed right away as you're adjusting your plan.
And we already know that the income piece of the plan needs adjustment, and certainly the tax planning component of the plan needs adjustment as well, because those tax brackets are going to get cut in half, and what that does is it decreases what you get to spend out of your resources. So there is a lot of adjustment necessary.
And the final takeaway is the kids. Whether for you that means explaining to the kids how much money and where it goes. Some people are really comfortable with that. I come from a family where we don't have those conversations. You know, not everybody is real privy to their parents' assets, and that's okay too. But at least having a plan in place, if talking to the kids and allowing the kids to be part of it is part of your legacy goal, you need to get that plan in place.
Some people feel really comfortable communicating exactly, even to the dollar amounts, what their wishes are with their plan. Other people don't. That's okay. Whatever's right for you works, as long as the kids understand what your wishes are. And one of the easiest way to do that, if you don't want to communicate verbally with the kids, is to have the plan in place and then let them know if something would happen, here's where to find the details.
Okay, and details, there are a lot of details when it comes to retirement planning. We've just talked about a succession plan today, but there's a lot more. Merkle Retirement Planning holds retirement classes, and what's really new and exciting that's coming up, Lauren, is the classes are going to get a little bit more specific and a little bit more focused. Tell people about it.
Yeah, we're really excited about what's coming up from a class standpoint. We're always big on education, and what we're going to do going forward is we're really going to segment the audience, a much more targeted audience and content than what we've ever had before. So as an example, we're gonna have a class that's designed specifically for those who have not retired yet, those who are in the red zone of retiring 10 years out and close to retirement. And then we're gonna have a class that's specific to those who are already in the retirement phase. And one of the reasons we're doing that, let's say you're already retired, you've already made your Social Security decisions. Well, you're not necessarily interested in learning about 20 to 25 minutes of Social Security analysis. So we're going to just get rid of that in the retirement class and make it more specific to what it is that you really want to know. And then we're also going to have a class specific to just women, because women do traditionally live longer than men, which means that the obstacles that they face in retirement can be different than men. So we're going to have a class taught by women for women.
Hey, I think it's the woman sitting right next to you.
This one.
Yeah, she's one of them. She's the one that teaches it. Okay, so if you're interested in those classes, there's a website. It's on your screen right now. It's merkleplan.com. All the details, when the classes are, where they're at, how to sign up. By the way, it is free to sign it up. It's all at that website. So we encourage you to go there. We also encourage you to watch another episode of this show. It's Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.
Are you overwhelmed by planning for retirement? Are you currently retired and looking to maximize your retirement savings? Not sure where to begin? Join us for our complimentary Passport to Retirement class. You'll learn how to maximize your Social Security benefits, save money on taxes, and leave a legacy that lasts for generations. Spots are limited and classes fill quickly. Call us today at Merkle Retirement Planning.
From our family to yours, we hope you have a wonderful weekend. We hope you enjoy the show. We'll see you next week.